What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripes show. We have made it to opening day tomorrow as you're listening to this, about to be our 10th season talking about Yankees baseball on the podcast, Scott. I know we briefly mentioned that. I don't know if we talked about that officially on the show, that this is going to be our 10th year, because 10 seems like a really large number.
10's it's double digits. It's larger than 9.
Yeah.
When you start getting into double digits, you realize how long you've been doing something. Bronx Pinstripes originally back in the day was 2010. So, obviously the site is not what it was. Lives have changed. People have changed. Kids have come around. Airborne diseases have been prevalent in certain years that have sidebarred some things. But yeah, 10 years doing this podcast is kind of crazy. And you were the first person that came on as a writer outside me in 2010. Maybe 11 at that point when you came.
I think it was 11. I think it was 11.
And then you disappeared for a year or so, and then you came back.
It was like a couple months. What would you say was your favorite season? What was 100% your favorite season?
It's an easy answer. It's a really easy answer for me. It's the second half of 2016 and then 17. But 16, if I'm narrowing it down to like a very specific time, the second half run of 16 was probably my favorite. And purely because it was my favorite because I loved watching unexpected kids come up and do the thing, and they were doing it. But 17,
it was really just Gary Sanchez though in the second half.
Yeah, but it was exciting. It was so exciting, and it was a short amount of time that was unexpected after what had been unprecedented when the team did in trading away guys, and they. I don't know. It felt like we were watching a different team. Like there's all these expectations about around the Yankees and being a Yankees fan. But when you trade the team away in the way that they did, which hadn't been done before, it felt fresh. It felt new. It felt, I don't know. It felt like we were watching something different that was exciting, and it brought back like my like hardcore fandom. I think in those moments, like I was really invested. Not that I'm not invested, I'm invested in the whole thing, but like I felt like a kid again. Maybe that's a better way to say it when I was watching it in 16.
Fair, because I felt the same way. 17 was still my favorite season talking about the team because it was still unexpected. We were circling 2018 as the year after the 2016 deadline moves. We're like, okay, going to take maybe a season for these kids to mature. Plus they're going to target some free agents. Plus some of these other prospects they just acquired will be ready in 2018. But then 2017 happened. They went on a much deeper playoff run than anyone imagined they were capable of. And really, if I'm narrowing down one single point, it's that wild card game and how freaking unbelievably crazy that was in 2017. We were obviously there. It's the craziest baseball game, best baseball game I've ever been to, the most fun I've ever had at a baseball game. It was 9:45 at night. It was like the top of the second inning. It was bananas. But then just that playoff run, podcasting every night, the voicemail line. I mean, we had Dom, who was interning for us at the time, up until 3:00 in the morning collecting voicemails. You and I got no sleep that entire October, and obviously it ended in disaster. But even though it ended in disaster, we were still like, well, that was fun. That was great. It wasn't like heartbreak at the end. Obviously, we were heartbroken. They didn't make the World Series, but there was still so much optimism. So
if we're going after full,
was by far my favorite.
If we're going after full season, 17 definitely is the one. I'm just thinking about moments, and then like outside of just the Yankees run and the product that we're watching on the screen or at the ballpark, 17 was just a blast. From beginning to end with the events that we did, hanging out with everybody, and that's always been one of my favorite parts. And then the atmosphere that we at that game, the 2019 playoff push was some of those games in person were a lot of fun as well.
Felt like they had to win in 2019 though. It felt like it didn't feel that way in 17, which is I think the key difference you touched on.
It is a key difference. Expectations are everything in the world.
There was Derek Jeter, I know, has talked about this, but I was also watching that Patriots documentary that recently came out. And once you win a certain number of times, there's the relief of not losing instead of the joy of winning. And I feel like by the 2019 playoffs, we were all just relieved they made it past the round so they could hopefully win. And obviously that didn't happen versus 2017 was just the joy of winning. Anyway, we've got a busy episode today. We're going to talk about the final roster decisions. We'll dive into that with Max in a little bit, but I know you want to touch on some bullpen stuff. We also have to do our bold predictions, and we have to talk about the gambler, Shohei Ohtani. So where do you want to start?
Let's start outside the Yankees and talk about Ohtani, because it's relatively old news at this point, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it. But it's crazy. It's a crazy story. It's a crazy story. The craziest part of the story is probably, the first few hours and when it got released and how everything changed back and forth and back and forth. And to me, I will always go back to that. I will always go back to the way that things were communicated from the very beginning. And that is where I think everything broke from the communication, because someone who is telling the truth and a group of people who are telling the truth don't come out with multiple stories and what things and why things are perceived and significant differences in their story. They come out with what the truth is and what it is. And usually stories are pretty consistent at that point. Also, people don't have any problem answering questions about a said thing, because there's nothing to worry about, nothing to hide. This is just what happened. So I'm going to tell the truth and live on that. And I just don't see it that way. There's something fishy.
If I ask you for $450,
yeah,
do you think you're going to ask me what I need the money for? Probably, right? You'd be like, what's this for?
I would ask, but I wouldn't press.
You would ask.
I would ask, but you would probably tell me also.
Okay.
You wouldn't just ask me for $450.
If I ask you for $4.5 million,
yeah,
you're gonna ask.
If you ask me for like $4,500, you would come to me and say something about that, and
right.
like there would be like a storyline behind it, assuming that you would need to be able to explain said thing.
Yes, like I really need this because my life is in danger, and if I don't,
yeah.
So there's three ways that you can look at this, and obviously this is not cut and dry that one of these ways is 100% accurate. But scenario one, Shohei Ohtani is gambling, and they're using the interpreter as the fall guy. Scenario two is the interpreter was gambling. Shohei Ohtani knew he was gambling and agreed to pay off his debts to the amount of $4.5 million. And the third scenario, which is the most unbelievable scenario in my mind, is the interpreter was gambling. In $4.5 million of debt, Shohei Ohtani had absolutely no clue this was going on, and then gave him $4.5 million, or was stolen $4.5 million and had absolutely no idea it happened. That is the most unbelievable scenario in my mind. I would say it's number one or number two. If you're really cynical, you can say number one and Shohei Ohtani is gambling. If you're less cynical and just think that Shohei Ohtani is probably just a regular guy and clearly has a deep connection with this interpreter to the point where he's willing to pay off a $4.5 million gambling debt. But to tell me he had no idea this was happening is way too far-fetched.
If he had no idea what's happening. So two scenarios about that. Do I think that Shohei Ohtani is looking at his bank account at all? No, I don't think he is. I think that that's very common with guys.
He needs to sign off on $4.5 million of wire transfers. That can't happen without Shohei Ohtani's approval.
That's not true. That can happen without Shohei Ohtani's approval. However, someone is doing it that has access to his bank account, and I gotta believe that this interpreter is also not his financial advisor. It's also not his, attorney for his family trust and all of the things that I'm sure he has set up. There is a gatekeeper there that is set, that is financially literate, that understands dollars and cents and understands what money is going to certain things. I do not think that Ohtani is looking at his bank account and checking it and doing all that. That's probably not the case. But if he doesn't have someone who is financially looking over his finances, which I promise you he does, then that is to me the biggest discrepancy in this whole thing. The interpreter's not going in there without someone else seeing the dollars.
Fine.
Again, I don't know if Shohei Ohtani's seeing it, because I just have a feeling he's not directly looking at that, but someone is, and probably multiple people, and probably a firm is looking at it. And in that case, they would absolutely flag something like this, understanding that the transaction is going to a place that's either vague or says where it's going, and either way you're questioning it. So there are multiple people that would have had to fail at their jobs for this to actually have happened. And that's why I don't believe that is exactly the case. Do I know if he's a gambler on sports? I have no idea. I'm not going to speculate. The guy very well could be a scumbag, or not even a scumbag. He just maybe he got in over his head and did the thing. And Ohtani, agreed to pay it off in some capacity. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But the story changing on day one, where this guy is going to say I did it, and then the reps are like, go tell him you did it, and then they're like, wait, no, he didn't do it. He stole it from us with unknowing. No one knew. That doesn't make any sense. So why the story change?
Because they realize, Logan, you can jump in a second here, but because they realized the rules of gambling in baseball, you can't legally gamble on baseball as a baseball player, but you can legally gamble on basketball or legally gamble on horse racing. Also, you can not have somebody closely connected to you, and your interpreter would be considered closely connected to you, place bets for you, or place bets on baseball, but they could place bets on horse racing or on the NBA legally. Under no circumstances can you place bets illegally, any kind of bet, because that opens you up to gambling debt and then potentially throwing Major League Baseball games to cover your gambling debt. So Shohei Ohtani's team realized after they said, oh yeah, we knew about these gambling debts. Oh wait, that also is going to get us in trouble. We have to pretend we didn't know. That's the only way Shohei Ohtani is clean out of this.
Let's go back to the scenario, because that would be assuming they all of a sudden knew. They found out about this on the same day that the public found out about this. No. This is something that had been going on. I promise you that they knew about it beforehand.
Of course, because he's been paying his
So then
gambling
why are we shifting our story? You didn't have enough time to process what the deal was.
That's a
and then
good
all of a sudden on the day
or because maybe the truth, the first thing we heard is probably the truth, that Shohei Ohtani paid this guy's gambling debts. That's probably the truth. But that still gets Shohei Ohtani in trouble. I think in a lot of people's mind, it wouldn't get him in trouble, but baseball would have to take action because that is against the rules of baseball.
And that would be devastating for Major League Baseball and the game as a whole, because Shohei Ohtani is the face of baseball globally.
Yeah.
He's not just the face of this league. He is the global face of baseball. So him wrapped up in something like this, and I can't help but think and go back to my memories of Alex Bregman going up to that goddamn microphone and reading a freaking thing, a piece of paper that blew away in the wind, and not answering questions. I can't get that out of my brain, because that's exactly what I go back to. I go back to the Houston Astros reading statements, not answering questions. And this guy going up there and, through a new interpreter, basically just reciting something his lawyers wrote.
First day on the job for the new interpreter. That's a tough first day.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Logan?
No, I was just going to say that kind of what you guys said, but like, obviously the original story had to be the case. The story comes out. He says in the ESPN article, yeah, I sent several large payments. That's the maximum amount I could send. That was a quote from Ohtani. Then they go to South Korea, and he's in the dugout, and he's all friendly with his interpreter. And then the next couple days later, he does it, and he's saying he's been stealing money from his account, and he's been told lies. So the first article comes out, and then they're all friendly, everything is fine, and then they must, I guess, like you said, realize that he would still get in trouble and shift the narrative. But still.
The other weird thing I was reading about this is because ESPN has been investigating this and asking Ohtani's people questions. So, like, wouldn't Ohtani have been aware of this through those questions leading up to this story?
Yes.
So to pretend they found out about this when the public found out is so unrealistic. And that's what I can't get over, is that this is not the truth. So... And I don't know what action baseball is going to take beyond, they launched an investigation. To your point, he is the face of the sport of baseball globally, but very much so the sport of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball cannot have a black mark like its biggest superstar gambling or potentially being associated with gambling, because that would be so detrimental to a league that has already gone through so many negative things over the past 5 years.
Yeah. You know, when I take a step back and I look at how the landscape of gambling has changed significantly in the last 5 years, it's very obvious. Legalized sports betting now in the U.S., right? That's the reason why things have changed. But there are so many sports teams, professional sports teams and leagues that are in bed with these casinos and with the gambling apps that it's really just talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're using guys in like DraftKings ads that don't have the the
two-faced.
logos on, but they're talking about fantasy DFS type stuff, and yet they the punishment for gambling and all this. Like, of course there should be a punishment for gambling. You shouldn't be gambling on the sport, but it's just two-faced. It really is.
Did you see this Jonte Porter NBA stuff?
Yeah.
Where it's seemingly he's giving tips on his player prop bets. Like, this is what these leagues opening up to all of these sports books and apps. This is what they're opening themselves up to, and they clearly have weighed the risks that the reward of the monetization opportunities outweigh the risks, but these risks are there. And if you call into question the integrity of these games due to gambling, there's no point to having a league, because if the games aren't on the up and up, who the fuck is going to watch?
Yeah, it's a dicey road. It's a dicey road.
All right. Well, getting tickets to early season baseball games can be frustrating. Tickets can be overpriced. Game Time has you covered there with the lowest price tickets guaranteed. Games can also be postponed due to bad weather. Game Time also has you covered there with their event cancellation protection and the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. Also, new for this year, Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, meaning buying tickets to a baseball game on Game Time is now easier and faster than ever. The Game Time app is amazing. You can find tickets you want, and then they are yours in just a few taps. Some of my favorite features include the flash deals, so you can see what sections the best deals are in. You can toggle to see all-in pricing before you even select to your next page, so you know exactly how much it's going to cost with no surprise fees at checkouts. And you also get those seat views with real pictures from inside the venue. So if you're going to be sitting in a new section or going to a new ballpark, you know what you're going to get before you buy. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for sporting events, but you can also find tickets for concerts, comedy shows, theater, and much more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always find the best price. If you find a ticket in the same section and row for less money somewhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code BRONX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Once again, create an account and redeem code BRONX, BRONX, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. Let's talk about so you wanted to talk about the bullpen, because we seemingly know what the bullpen is going to look like, barring any more moves. And Luis Hill was announced as the fifth starter for the Yankees. And then the bullpen is going to be made up of Clay Holmes, Jonathan Loaizaga, excuse me, Ferguson, Hamilton, Gonzalez.
It's choking you up. It's choking you up.
Weaver, Birdie, and Beater, although Birdie, I believe, has been officially named to the team. Beater has been told he's traveling with the team, which would indicate he would be added to the roster, but I don't believe he has been added to the 26-man roster yet. The Yankees have two lefties in the bullpen, Gonzalez and Ferguson. But there's, like, to your point, there's names here that are the opposite of household names in the bullpen.
You know, I don't think this is getting a lot as much discussion as it should be, because, and this is something Logan just asked me right before we started hitting record, and shouldn't they get the benefit of the doubt with the bullpen?
If there's one area, it should be the bullpen.
To an extent, yes. But when you have this many guys that are relatively unknowns and relatively unproven commodities in the bullpen, you're relying on a lot of the Yankees getting it right with bullpen guys. And as we know, bullpens can be very different on a year-to-year basis, right? The Yankees bullpen last year was an absolute strength. They had the best ERA
to a point
up into the through the first half, and they got tired. They broke down a bit. But when I'm looking at this roster for the bullpen itself, I got Clay Holmes at the back. Do I feel comfortable with Clay Holmes? I do. I feel comfortable with Clay Holmes. We've seen some rockiness with him, but for the most part, he's been very good. And I think he'll be just fine. Ian Hamilton has been a revelation for the Yankees. They were absolutely right on him. He's looked great this spring. So I have no reason to believe that he's not going to be an impact guy, but he's going to have to be more of an impact guy for this team to get what they want out of it. Like, they're going to have to rely on him, I believe. Jonathan Loaisiga, them stretching him into 2 innings is a very, very big unknown. He hasn't had the best spring. Hasn't really shown that he can do that over the last couple of years. He hasn't shown that he can stay healthy.
That's his biggest thing is health. Loaisiga's never been healthy consistently. He's been on the IL every season he's been in Major League Baseball.
So if we're relying on Jonathan Loaisiga to be that Chad Green 2-inning guy, then
But they're saying that using him in this role with a 2-inning and then 2 days off will actually keep him healthier than using him as a traditional reliever where you might pitch 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 days.
Okay, cool. Well, great. If you believe in the player, then when he's healthy, then okay, we have that player.
I believe in Jonathan Loaisiga's talent. I don't believe in his ability to stay healthy. That's the problem.
So then the real unknown here is the Yankees' ability to gauge the situation based on the 2-inning theory that it will keep
gauge the situation and also put their personnel in the best position to succeed. And putting somebody who has had such a bad injury history in this position might not be they're believing is the best way to succeed. But yeah, the bullpen has more risks going into this year than it has in a long
Let's just keep going down the list here for conversation's sake here. Tommy Kahnle isn't built up yet. He threw a sim game, I think, recently. But he's got shoulder inflammation. He's also a guy that's been injured in the past multiple times. You cannot depend on Tommy Kahnle to come out here and give you a full season. So he's not even starting the season on the roster because he's still building up into a position. If he's healthy, yes, he's very good. He's got the changeup that gives you options out there because he's very effective as a righty pitcher against a lefty. And then we get the couple of guys that were acquired from the Dodgers, Caleb Ferguson and Victor Gonzalez. Okay, these are Yankees. These are Brian Cashman specials. So yep. Let's hope that these Brian Cashman specials are added to Clay Holmes and Ian Hamilton, who are also Brian Cashman specials, and hit. Luke Weaver, who is there probably as a long relief guy. Marinaccio didn't make the team because he has not been the guy that he flashed. Not even last year. What was it? 2022 was really when we saw him in a good spot.
And then he got sent down, which I'm going to talk about this in a second. But the Domingo Germán,
that's right,
was when Marinaccio got sent down last year.
Yep. So then you also are here with Nick Burdi, who has had a great spring for all intents and purpose. Like, we see that guy as lighting up the radar gun,
the bullpen breakout guy in the spring.
Yeah,
and
there's always 31 years old.
There's always there's always one of those guys though that surprises you in spring, makes the team, and then for the Yankees has turned out pretty good. Like, oh, this guy is actually valuable.
Okay. But I'm still adding Gonzalez and Ferguson to that list as well of kind of in that category.
They have more of a track record though in the major leagues than
not the greatest track record. It's not, they're not been dominant relievers by any means or any stretch of the imagination.
Is Beater. But what I think a point that you haven't mentioned that concerns me as much as the names in the bullpen are the names in the starting rotation right now, which is Cortez, Rodon, Stroman, Schmidt, and Heel. Okay. That is not a stable, get deep into games on a consistent basis rotation. So the workload on this bullpen is going to be pretty hefty, especially to start the season, as guys, starting pitchers, still need to ramp up a little bit more. One of the biggest reasons that the bullpen struggled in the second half of the season down the stretch is because of the workload on it. So this bullpen is going to have a lot of work in the first few months of the season. How is that going to be able to withstand as we get into June, July, August, and September? It's risky. The depth in this pitching staff, top to bottom, starting pitching down to the last guy in the bullpen, even going to the first couple guys in the minors, is not great.
Yeah. So you added to the depth and what you're exactly saying about the starting rotation. There's just a lot of question marks. To me, there's a lot of question marks coming in with this bullpen, and I don't see it as that same dominant bullpen or a same one that we can really rely on as the Yankees have in the past. I just don't. I've seen enough rockiness from the guys that are supposed to be the reliable ones as well, where I have apprehension and I'm going in with like side eyeing that bullpen. And I'm really laser focused to see how these guys perform in the first 2 months of the season, because if they don't perform the way that the Yankees believe that they are, and there are multiple guys that need to kind of take that next step in their career and conform to the Yankee way with how they act as a bullpen and act as the strength, one of the strengths of the team. Then yeah, this team is going to be in some trouble, especially when you're looking at what the pitching rotation, what the full pitching roster looks like, bullpen rotation in August, in September, when you need to rely on these guys for substantial innings, and probably high leverage innings with how everybody thinks the AL East, is going to come down and the wild card. So I just got my eye on it, and I don't feel, and I'm a glass half full guy for sure. I always have been. I look at, where I can see positives for this team, but I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried about this bullpen, purely because I just haven't seen these guys come out here and perform. And as a unit, there's a lot of uncertainty, I think.
Are you more worried about the bullpen or the starting rotation?
I think I'm more worried about the bullpen.
Wow.
But I think that they're obviously connected because of where the link is. I'm much higher on Clark Schmidt than you are. And I'm much higher on another guy as we'll find out soon.
What do you, I mean, Clark Schmidt though, like, even if you're high on him, he's not like he's not a top of the rotation guy.
No,
so we're talking about a back of the rotation. He could be a back of the rotation solid starter, right?
I think his ceiling is like a 3. I think he can be a very good solid 3 for the staff. Okay. I think he can be.
Well, that's not going to save a bullpen. The way that bullpens get saved are you have multiple guys at the top of your rotation that can get into games, deep into games consistently every 5th day. So your bullpen is not taxed 4 out of 5 days or 5 out of 5 days. It's only taxed 3 out of 5 days. And you can also manage that a little bit better with off days, how guys' rotation falls, and all of that kind of thing. And that's how that is the game of managing a pitching staff throughout a 162 game season. It is weathering the storm. And I don't know that the Yankees have the consistency in the pitching staff to weather a 162 game storm, especially because it's not just their ability to pitch deep in games, it's also their ability to stay healthy. All of these guys have injury question marks. All of them. Even the guys that you felt good about in the bullpen. Loizaga and Clay Holmes, injury question marks. One of these guys goes down, either from the starting rotation or the bullpen, then the house of cards just starts to crumble.
I mean, if Clay Holmes goes down, it's disaster. It's spelling disaster. I don't
he's
even
had
know.
Injury
maybe Ian Hamilton becomes the closer of the team at that point, because
at that point it's the hot hand. At that point, it's who's pitching well.
I'm just saying the depth is 1,000% going to get tested, and I do think that you're going to see some of these guys that we've been
also. Who was the guy last year? Who was the guy last year that we're like, great, we can at least count on him in the bullpen? Wandy.
Yeah. Right.
It was like at least consistent out there. And like he was the remember that everyday Eddie from back in the 90s?
Eddie Pinero.
Guerrero
Pinero.
Whatever Gonzalez, whatever.
Eddie
Everyday Wandy, or whatever alliteration you can come up with. Yeah. Weekly Wandy.
So yeah, that's just, we're the depth of the minor leagues is going to get tested. It's going to get tested in multiple ways, and I think some of these starting pitchers down there too are probably going to have to be using the bullpen at some point. And historically that doesn't go over the Yankees.
And I know this was making its rounds on social media, was the Baseball Reference win total projections had the Yankees at 71 wins in last place in the division. And this is a big reason why, because this is perhaps the worst simulation of all time. It's MLB playoff odds are based on 1,000 simulations of the rest of the season and 100 regular season games, even if it spans seasons, and includes a regression to the mean factor. These results are based on standings through March of 2024. The page is not updated during the postseason. This also does not have anything to do with injuries, new players added, or players lost to the roster, or variance. Okay, so this is just looking at what the Yankees were in the last 100 games of 2023, which was garbage, and saying they're going to be garbage again. Yeah, obviously. If they perform like they did in the last 100 games of 2023, they're going to finish in last place. But let's hope that doesn't happen.
Baseball what a stupid reference. Number to publish, though, based on stupid reasonings. I mean, half these projections are stupid in the first place, but this one,
ultra
exactly
stupid.
What you just said, ultra dumb. Like the fact that you hit publish on this and felt good about it is.
But
is
you
wild.
know, when they ran this simulation and saw the Yankees in last place, they were like freaking gold mine.
Yeah, but it also takes in
gets attention.
Sure, but it also makes me, question credibility for where that was printed and where that was, published. Which does not help with the amount of competition that's out there for baseball statistics.
Even the most cynical Yankees fan is not going. Neil Keefe, okay? So I talked to him about this. Even he doesn't think they're a 71 team. He said they're probably a 75 win team, but it's better than 71.
That's funny.
Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. The Yankees are no strangers to injuries and key players missing time. This entire era of Yankees baseball has kind of been defined by it. Maybe this year, once Garrett Cole returns and DJ LeMahieu returns, will be the year that ends. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of the Bronx Pinstripe Show. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System yet, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you're in the New York City area like me or hundreds of other locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Then go to unifiedhealing.com to learn more and find a center near you. That's unified, spelled UNIFYD, healing.com. No material or testimonial on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions that you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment, and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System. I wish I could read like 10 times fast for the disclaimer.
Well, it was good.
All right. Before we get to the bold predictions, quickly, there was a story published, I think, in the New York Post on Domingo Germán about the, quote, dark day when he trashed the Yankees clubhouse and got sent to rehab. Reading this article, I'm so happy that Domingo Germán is not with the Yankees organization anymore. So he's saying that he does not have a drinking problem. He said he was not drunk on that day, even though he was accused of being drunk. He said he did drink the night before, but that was out of frustration of being taken out of the game early and also not being clearly communicated to that he wasn't starting that game, because that was the game, if we remember, he came in relief and ended up pitching, I think, 5 scoreless innings. But he was mad he didn't get to start that game, and apparently Boone and the Yankees never told him he wasn't starting that game until the day of, and he was upset about that. But he said he does not have a drinking problem. Quote, I drink when I want to drink, but I don't have any problem. I could go a month or 2 without drinking. Sounds like a guy with a drinking problem. So he also said that he did not intend to disrespect Marinaccio, that he does feel bad that Marinaccio or anyone saw it that way, and that he was playing loud music and apparently mocking Marinaccio, but it was not intended to make him feel bad about being sent down to the minors. So
the guy's an ass.
Germán
the guy's
an
ass.
Yankee.
Stop talking. Yeah, shouldn't even have a job. Does sound like a guy with a drinking problem. That you don't have to be. You can still have a drinking problem if when you do the thing, it is a problem for everybody else. That could still be a problem.
So many people miss that. They're like, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have a drinking problem. Well, you turn into an absolute monster when you do drink, and that is a problem. Okay, that is a different kind of drinking problem.
Yes. So yeah.
All right.
No more time for him, but bye.
Let's go to the bold predictions. Why don't you go first?
You want me to go first? All right.
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to alternate?
I'll go first. Yeah. Do you want to go? All right. I'll go all of them together. Here we go. All right. I was looking back at the last year, and I got to be honest. This year was tough for me. It was a tough one because, there just weren't a lot of like very out there predictions to be made. I think that made me feel like I was actually saying something that was reasonable. Because I try to ground these in being relatively reasonable and having an opportunity to happen. You know, a lot of things have to go right for these bold predictions, because that's what they are. They're bold. They're supposed to be a little outlandish. But for whatever reason, it was difficult for me. I don't know if you felt the same way, but it was tough to go out and stretch, because there's a lot of guys that I do expect to take another step. And some that I think are expected amongst fans at this point. All right, so I'm going to go first. My number one bold prediction, and I was very excited when this happened. But Luis Gil taking the final spot, understanding that there is a deficiency in the rotation with Garrett Cole being injured and being down. I have Luis Gil capturing a rotation spot, staying in the rotation for the entire season, and really bailing out the Yankees for not going out there and signing another veteran guy. I think Luis Gil, when we saw him in 21, his strikeout numbers, everything about the demeanor he had, the way that he looked on the mound, I felt really good about him. I said this with Max last week. I was like, he feels as close to a Severino as anyone I've seen, you know, in a long time. He does feel like that type of like dynamic guy, high strikeout number, a lot of movement. And the fact that he's established or building out this changeup, I think is a big deal for him. He's really gotten better in his control. He had a fantastic spring, and I understand spring numbers don't mean much, but for a guy like him that's rebounded, you know, he's what, 2 years, 18 months past Tommy John surgery. So he's right in that zone where, you know, he can be strong. He could go deep. The Yankees don't have an innings, or they're saying they don't have an innings limit on him. And I'm expecting the guy in 21, more mature now, having developed even more, to be a dynamic guy. And I think he's really going to bail out. I could see him, you know, at the end of the year, we look back and he was, you know, second or third best starting pitcher on the team. Would not surprise me. I think he's going to take a big stretch.
You mentioned he will hold a rotation spot for the entire season. So who's coming out of the rotation?
I don't want to talk about the negative, because I have a negative. It's more about an injury. So let's just say that I think there will be injuries. And I think that him effectively pitching in the way that he's going to pitch is going to be a significant thing, because I think there will be injuries this year for some of the guys that are currently there.
Yeah, walks are also a big thing with him, because he walked over in that season in 2021. He walked almost 6 per 9 innings, and that was obviously can't have that.
All right, bold prediction number 2. This one's probably I'd say the most bold of the predictions possibly. I got Austin Wells taking over the starting, quote unquote, starting catcher position, and I understand that there's going to be a platoon, but I see him leading in games played, possibly games started. I got him at 92. And by August, I have him taking on the definitive role of starting catcher. I also have him winning Rookie of the Year. I think that we're going to see a good offensive season from him, that is going to put him amongst the league leaders for rookies this year. And as we've seen in the spring, I think his defense has gotten a hell of a lot better. And I think that he is fully capable of you know, putting this team in a very good spot defensively. And defensive run save, we look back to 2022, where we had Trevino. He was right around 17 defensive runs saved to lead the major leagues. He was the best defensive catcher. I expect a slight regression from there for him. And I got Austin Wells, right around 9 games, which I think is substantial for a guy that is, coming in as a rookie. And actually, if you go back and look at some numbers, that puts him around defensively where Adley Rutschman was, which I think is interesting. But I think he's going to take a big step up. And yeah, rookie of the year. Why not? He's got to beat Matt Holliday's kid out, which will be a tall task. But
yeah, you got to beat a half of the
there's
Baltimore
the
Orioles lineup pretty much. So 92 games started. Like that is obviously majority, but like that's not overwhelming majority.
It's not overwhelming because I think it's going to take a little while for it to happen. I think
Okay.
I think the Yankees are going to let it play out for a bit, but I think his bat is going to be too much to look past. And with the defense being where I believe it is, it's going to be difficult, I think, to keep him out of the roster, especially with that lefty bat.
Okay. Number 3.
Okay, moving on. Number 3. This is one I'm excited about because I'm excited to watch him in his second full year. I got Anthony Volpe rebounding offensively. I love the fact that he's replaned his swing. Nice little Cam Maben middle of the field approach for Volpe. Had a very good spring. I see him as more comfortable in the box. He looks like just a much more comfortable baseball player right now. And you can look at numbers. You don't have to look at numbers. However you want to look at the spring. I'm using my eye test and just seeing how the guy is at the plate and approaches at bats. And I like it. I like the way he is. He's in a lineup that very much should be improved. Should give him some nice opportunities to hit balls in the strike zone, understanding who is at the top of that lineup. And if he is slotted towards the bottom, I don't know if he's going to be in the 9 spot now with LeMahieu out, but he's still going to have an opportunity. And I have him by the end of the season. I think Anthony Volpe is the leadoff hitter for the New York Yankees. And as we go into the playoffs, I see Anthony Volpe starting the game as the leadoff hitter for the New York Yankees.
So you have the Yankees making the playoffs.
I do have them at the playoffs. And I some more specific numbers. I got he had 21 last year, Volpe home runs. I have him at 20. I actually don't want to see him. Originally I had 30. I penciled him in for a 30-30 season. 30, but I don't want him to hit 30 home runs. I think he's got the ability to do it, but I don't want him to, because I think that if his game is improving the way I want it to improve, you're going to see a lot more line drives. You're going to see a lot more gaps. Probably the doubles numbers increases. So I got him at 20 home runs, and I do think he's going to increase the bases stolen this year. I got him at 40 stolen bags. So that's a tick up from last year. And really, he slowed down towards the end of the year. He was on pace.
Didn't get on base much.
Yeah, that's true. That does factor into it, not being on base. So I got him as a 20-40 guy, which I think would be substantial.
Is 20-40 a thing? Is that a club?
I don't think it is, but now it is. But yeah, leadoff hitter. I think that's where we're going to see the biggest thing. I think he's going to be. It's going to be if things go the way that I hope they go. I think it's going to be difficult to keep him out of that leadoff spot. Understanding that we don't know what LeMahieu is at this point, and who knows how. And if this bone bruise lingers. All right, number 4. The New Age Murderers Row is back, baby. It is back, and part of it is a svelte, slender Giancarlo Stanton. 3 Yankees have 40 home runs plus. We got Judge, Soto, and Stanton, all ending the year at 40 plus home runs. Soto hasn't done it. Stanton, obviously, we know what happened last year, but with as egregious as it was last year, 40 is not that far off if he is relatively improved. Obviously, he has to take a big step. There's a lot of confidence that needs to come from him. But again, like, he's looked pretty decent towards the end of the spring training. Seemingly, has reworked that swing a bit. We'll see. I'm going to have to give him the benefit of the doubt. 40 home runs. I think he could fall into 40 home runs if he's hitting 220. If he's barreling the ball a little more, he's going to fall into 40 home runs. So New Age Murderers Row back in action. I'm going to print the t-shirts again. I'm excited. Get Gary Sanchez out of here. Aaron Judge is the only one that's back. Who was the third person on that?
It was Stanton.
It was Stanton, right? It was Stanton and Judge. So sub out
Sanchez.
Sub out Gary Sanchez for Juan Soto, and you got New Age Murderers Row back in the Bronx. Number 5, this is a team bet. This is my glass half full team bet. I make a team bet pretty much every year. I will say this. I'm disappointed that the Orioles are better, because it was always so much fun to say that they were going to go 17-0 against the Orioles. And that was just one that continued to come back. And there's no one I can say that against anymore. Plus, we don't play as many games. I got the Yankees surprising people. I think this is where the expectations come into play. You look at all the different projections. Everybody has the AL East at like 92, 93, 94 wins, to win the division. I got the Yankees at 100 wins. I think they win 100 games and surprise everybody in the AL East, win the AL East, and doubling down on what I said last year, because it has to happen, because I need it to happen. We all need it to happen. They exercise their demons in the ALCS by beating the Houston Astros and get to the World
Better
Series.
late than never.
And that's where we are. Am I going as far as they're going to win the World Series? No.
Time will tell. All right. Nice predictions. Yeah. So, I mean, I sort of echo what you said, that the predictions were maybe a little bit difficult this year. I also had to revamp mine late last night after Jordan Montgomery signed with the Diamondbacks. So I'll get to that in a little bit. But my first bold prediction is about the newest Yankee we're all excited about. Juan Soto will win the American League MVP with 40 home runs, which is a career high. He'll also lead the league in walks, and that would be the 4th consecutive year that he does that. But the real prediction here is that he just has an amazing season with the Yankees. Everything is roses. They sign him in the winter to a 15-year, $600 million contract, which is $40 million average annual value. 15 years takes him through age 39 season in the year 2038, which does not sound real, but that is a 15-year contract for Juan Soto, who's not even 26 years old yet. And that would be the largest ever contract in Major League Baseball history that is not deferred. Although Shohei Ohtani might not ever see that money now that we know what he's got going on. My second bold prediction going into the rotation. So you said Luis Gil is going to be a stabilizing force. I think it's going to be Nestor Cortes. And he's going to really step up in Garrett Cole's absence. He's going to make the most starts for the Yankees at 30 and really provide that consistency that I think they're going to be lacking with Cole out. And his final stats for the year, Nestor Cortes, will be 30 starts, 170 innings pitched, and a 3.50 ERA. Not quite as dominant as he was back in 2022 when he had like a 2.5 ERA or something, but really looking for just consistency out of Nestor Cortes, and I think he can provide that.
That's interesting because, again, if I was going to the negative side of what I just mentioned about the rotation and injuries, he's the one I'm looking at for staying healthy. I think he's, the biggest question mark in staying healthy. So I hope that's
bigger
the case.
than Rodon.
Yeah. I think Rodon has a higher chance of sucking, but Cortez, with some injury history here, I think that's.
Yes, they all have injury history.
They all have injury history. I understand that, but I hope you're right.
My next prediction.
Actually, I don't hope you're right. I hope he has a good season. I hope he's not the best. I hope he's not the stabilizer that I hope Rodon is that guy. But I hope you're right with your prediction in his statistics.
I'm not staking my claim to a Rodon prediction.
Me either. I didn't want to put him in here, to be honest.
My number 3 prediction, the Yankees are going to have 7 above league average hitters as far as OPS plus goes. So 100 OPS plus or better. 7 hitters.
What did they have last year?
2. It was Gleyber Torres and Aaron Judge. Everyone else was below league average. And I came up with 7 because I looked at the top offenses in the league last year, Texas, Los Angeles, and Atlanta, and they had 8 in their lineup. Okay. And I'm thinking 8 is maybe a bit of a stretch, but I came up with 7 guys I feel good are going to provide better than league average offense. And I think names? I got names. And I think that would make the Yankees call it a top 10 offense in Major League Baseball. Not the best offense in Major League Baseball, maybe not a top 3 offense in Major League Baseball, but a top 10. The names are Judge and Gleyber, which we already had last year. Obviously, Juan Soto, he's going to win the MVP. Anthony Rizzo is going to have a bounce back year. I think he's going to be healthier. Obviously, he's not going to have a concussion. I don't know that we're going to see, he was like, I don't know, 130 OPS plus pace last year. I don't know about that, but he's going to be better. Anthony Volpe, to some of the reasons you mentioned. Austin Wells, he's maybe a surprise guy. He's going to have better. And the last guy is Giancarlo Stanton.
Oh, wow. So you're on the Stanton wagon now, too.
I don't think Giancarlo Stanton's going to hit 40 home runs. And I also don't know that he is going to be out there for 135, 145 games. But I think when he's playing, say, call it 120 games, I think he's going to be better than league average. And I think he's not going to be a complete life suck out of this lineup.
If he's an above average player, if he's above league average player, he's going to hit 40 home runs. I think it's just going to naturally happen. I think that's just
maybe you're right. Number 4 for me,
Garrett gets the piss out of the ball when he
Garrett Cole will return a little bit later than originally planned. It's going to be right around the All-Star break. Maybe the week before the All-Star break. Maybe they'll push him a week after the All-Star break. But he's going to make 12 starts in the second half of the season, and he's going to be the most dominant pitcher in Major League Baseball over those 12 starts, leading the Yankees on a second half surge to chase down the Baltimore Orioles, which is my number 5 prediction. September 24th to 26th, second to last season of series of the year, the Yankees host the Baltimore Orioles for 3 games. The Yankees are going to have to sweep that series to tie with Baltimore heading into the last weekend of the year, in which the Yankees play Pittsburgh, who's not going to be playing for anything. So the Yankees also sweep Pittsburgh, claiming the division by a game over Baltimore with 93 wins.
Yeah, so you're at the middle of the 90 pack.
I think there's a lot of competition in the division, and I think we obviously saw Baltimore win 100 games last year, but the Yankees were a lot worse. The Red Sox were not good. I think that this year there's 4 really highly competitive teams in the AL East. I don't know that a team is going to run away with 101 wins like we saw Baltimore last year.
Yeah, no, it would certainly be a surprise if it happened.
So I had to change my prediction because originally this was my prediction. Jordan Montgomery re-signs with the Yankees in early May to a 5-year, $125 million deal, which would put the prorated amount at $20.8 million for this year. Montgomery will announce his return in Cashman's box on Saturday, May 4th, which is Star Wars Day.
Oh my God.
The signing is going to be in response to a Carlos Rodon injury. And the Carlos Rodon injury is just so annoying to the Yankees front office that Randy Levine files a lawsuit against Carlos Rodon and Scott Boras, who swindled the Yankees, because that is Rodon's agent. And he announces, Randy Levine does, that the Yankees will never do another deal with a Scott Boras client after signing Jordan Montgomery, another Scott Boras client. At that very moment, Randy Levine is then reminded that Juan Soto is a Scott Boras client. So Randy Levine will have to issue a public apology to Scott Boras.
I thought you were going to can Randy Levine.
No, so I think Randy Levine has way too much dirt on the Steinbrenners that I think he has a job for life. But Hal, under pressure from the public, will need to do something to Randy Levine. So he has to publicly shame him. So what he's going to make him do is on July 4th, America's birthday, at home plate at Yankee Stadium, he's going to be there shaving Randy Levine's head while fans berate him from the stands.
That's also Steinbrenner's birthday, and John Sterling is going to call the play-by-play.
Yeah,
okay.
But now that can't happen because Jordan Montgomery signed in Arizona.
That's true. 1-year deal with an option to
the lack of market for Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell this offseason just blows me away.
It's crazy. It really is crazy. Yeah, it's going to be a bone of contention when the new CBA is up. That is going to be a problem.
The players association,
all right, man. Like
those super angry about this.
Those are good. I wish Montgomery didn't sign last night, so that could have been your 5th bold prediction. But I like it as an honorable mention here. Way too much alignment on our end, though. I feel there's the pitching staff, and I agree. I think it goes back to the trouble in really identifying like some seriously bold things that aren't stupid for this team, because we expect Volpe to take that next step. That's what he should be doing. And everything we're seeing is he is taking that next step. Giancarlo Stanton, what are we to believe? That he's not going to be, he's just going to fall apart, because that is exactly what is expected.
If you combine our 10 predictions, it basically boils down to if some of these things don't happen, the team's screwed.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe where it is too. Like these things there are steps that need to happen for this team to be, not the 71 team that who was it? Was it Baseball Reference? Who was it? Baseball Reference. Shame on you, 71. Watch them be right.
All right, that's going to wrap up for the bold predictions and this portion of the episode. We're going to be talking to Max in just a few minutes. I'll talk with him about some of the other final roster decisions and get just his thoughts entering the season.